And we're live. Hello, everybody. We are live and direct. Here we go. We're going to have some fun tonight. Looks like the chat room is packing up early today. I don't mean packing up like leaving. I mean packing up like getting packed. Where's my cursor? There it is. All right. Let's do a little audio check here. See how things sound. Bring it down a little bit. All right. Here we go. Nope. Hindenburg preferences. Hindenburg has its own preferences, and it doesn't want to go the way it wants. I want it to go. All right, here we go. Try that again. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. All right, how did that sound loud?
It sounded a little bit overmodulated. Try it again.
Yeah, hang on. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Okay, don't talk during this part, Steve. I'm trying to hear it. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan. Yeah, I think my mic's a little hot.
The music sounded a little hot.
Excuse me?
The music sounded hot.
Well, the music is the same as it always is. That's your imagination. Or, there we go. All right, that's a little quieter here. Yeah, it's actually lower than it usually is. It's at minus 15 dB. I normally do it at minus 13. So I don't know why it sounds hot.
Your mic or the music?
Studios, the music. I normally bring it down to minus 13. It's at minus 15, so it should be quieter than usual.
Okay.
Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. That looked a little better. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Yeah, that's only going 2 dots up on the Google Hangout meter, Steve, when I'm doing the playback. So that's really quiet, actually. Maybe Google is just smashing it.
Yeah.
All right. It is probably time for roll call. And why is Twitter running? It is time for roll call. We've got Steve and Kevin and Daniel and Ian and Gino Choice. Not really here. He's lurking. Joe and Dorothy and Rose and Sandy and Mark is in the house.
I think Gino Choi is rarely here.
Yeah.
He's lurking all the time. I think he should take Dorothy's name. Gino Choi Lurker.
There you go. That's probably the right thing to do. But he's the one who taught us about how to lurk in IRC. So, or no, he didn't tell us, did he? Did he or Joe tell us? One of the two of them.
I forget.
All right. Has tilapia. What is Mark doing here? He just comes in sometimes to tell us it's time for him to leave and make dinner. That seems to be his thing, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I can hide this for now. Okay. Hide that. I don't think I need anything there. I don't need that. I don't need that. Too much distraction. Sorry. I normally clean this up ahead of time. But there we go. No, one more window. Oh, yeah, I definitely don't want that open. Okay, here we go. Are we ready?
We're ready.
All right.
Muting.
Oh, tonight the wife's cooking. So now you have no excuse. If you leave, we'll know why.
Because he has to eat.
Oh, there's that. All right, here we go. Okay. Gotta have the right window open. There we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, October 8th, 2017, and this is show number 648. Well, last week, I had the great pleasure of being invited on the Cool Blind Tech podcast with Nelson Rago and James Oates. James' invitation letter to me really made me feel good. He said he had admired my work for a long time. When we got together on Skype and before recording, James and Nelson both talked about how they recommend my shows, and their blind friends asked why, since she can see. Anyway, it was a pretty interesting perspective. How could a sightling add to the accessibility discussion? Anyway, like I said, that part wasn't recorded, but I still thought that was an interesting conversation. In the recording, we talk about Amazon adding new accessibility features for blind and impaired customers. I remember when Amazon started, how incredibly lame they were at accessibility for the blind. So it was pretty cool to learn that they were doing a lot better. I also liked how in the article that the guys quoted, the guy in charge of accessibility for Amazon says they're just getting started. And that's good of him to say because it's a good start, but he knows they're behind the 8 ball, so that's good. Now, remember when Steve and I went to CSUN this year and we interviewed the folks from Second Sight that were demonstrating an optical implant that allowed the guy to see? Well, this same group has been granted conditional approval for a small study where they're going to bypass the eye and even the optic nerve and actually stimulate the visual cortex directly. That means that even without an eye or a functioning optic nerve, people would be able to see again. James and Nelson and I discussed the ramifications of this and how it would change their own lives. Finally, we talk about a recent court opinion in the United States, which ruled that a website is a place of public accommodation and therefore fits under the Americans with Disabilities Act. That the ADA requires companies to provide equal access to persons with disabilities. In the past, this has only been applied to physical locations, so that's why we now have wheelchair ramps and accessible bathrooms in public places. But this is the first time that a website has had the ADA requirements applied to it. So that was a pretty interesting development, and it was interesting talking to them about it. Anyway, there's a link in the show notes to the Cool Blind Tech episode. It is entitled VIP Bouncy House Special with Allison Sheridan. You have to listen to find out what Bouncy House has to do with accessibility. Let's see. In July, I told you about my new favorite collection of tools, Parallels Toolbox. I was so excited about this set of apps that I decided to do a screencast on it for Screencast Online. It had to wait in the queue until Don was done doing his amazing tutorials about High Sierra and iOS 11. Now, if you haven't seen these videos, definitely go check them out. There's an iOS 11 Part 1 and Part 2 and a separate macOS High Sierra release. I always go watch these videos before I start using an OS or even after I've started, because you'll always be amazed at how many things Don finds that you never ran across. So there's some of my favorite of all of his videos. Anyway, the Parallels Toolbox video is now up, and you can find it at a link in the show notes or do a search on Screencast Online for Parallels Toolbox. Erica Peters, I don't know why I paused so much there. Too long of a pause. What are you guys watching? Oh, you're dropping in the video? I had fun doing that one. Time to name the episode.
Which video?
The Parallels Toolbox one. It normally I like doing the iPad and iPhone apps because the screens don't move around. It's real easy to do it consistently. Like you can be halfway through a video, go have lunch and come back and nothing will have moved because they're always in the same place. But it's always really tricky, like leaving your cursor in the right place so it doesn't suddenly jump from one side to the other, or you don't have the wrong menu bar showing, or the clock has changed time or whatever on the Mac. But the nice thing about the Parallels Toolbox tools was each one is completely independent. So I could sit down, do a tool, go off, do something else, come out back, do a new tool, go away, come back, do a new tool. And that made it super easy to do. So I really enjoyed doing that one. You still do have to worry about things like the dog barking and all that, but at least it was a little bit easier. So that's why I liked it. But I'm going to have to do a hard one this time. What is it I'm doing? Oh, I'm doing Aurora HDR. That's what it is. It's hot in here.
You want a fan?
No, I can't have a fan. You can
I'm
hear
your
it.
biggest fan, dear.
I don't know about that. All right. Let's see. Erica Peterson of Moms Can Code joins us this week on Chit Chat Across the Pond Light to talk about her new startup designed to help mothers who code to connect with each other and collaborate. We talk about her life as a mother of a 5-year-old, and while she's got to be coding and teaching high school biology, she's creating a startup and running a nonprofit. The nonprofit is called Science Tots, which is focused on bringing STEAM activities to non-science-based events. Now, you can be sure I asked her about that A in STEAM, and she had a really good answer to why she did add the A to the word STEM. Anyway, check out that recording in the Chit Chat Across the Pond Light feed or the full Chit Chat Across the Pond feed, or of course, there's a link in the show notes. This week was the LA Podcast Festival, and the people who run it asked Tom Merritt if he'd like to do Daily Tech News Show live at the event. They scheduled it for a Friday afternoon at 1:30 p.m., and unfortunately, Tom was going to be at a wedding, actually in Europe. He asked Justin Robert Young to step in as host for him, and then brought in Jeff Kanata, Darren Kitchen, and me to be on the show with Justin. We all trundled up there with producer Roger Chang to downtown LA. I have to say, I was super excited to get to meet all of them in person, and especially chuffed, as Bart would say, to be on the air with these guys. Okay, so get this. We set up in what was a pretty tiny conference room. I mean, maybe it could have held 30 or 40 people if they snuggled up real tight. Guess how many people came to see us? Yes, go ahead. 0. Seriously, there was no audience. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, these guys are much more well-known than I am. And of course, Tom and DTNS, I mean, that's huge in tech podcasts, but we had no audience whatsoever. So Steve actually recorded a video of the entire show, and at the end, he put in some outtakes. If you've already heard the show, I highly recommend going to the link in the show notes anyway, and jumping to around 46 minutes where he plays the time of us goofing around before the show starts. It's fantastic. It's really funny. But the best part of the show is at 49 minutes and 30 seconds when 2 guys actually come in. We had an audience until they realize that they're in the wrong session and they leave. I mean, I cannot stop laughing at what Jeff Kanata says when this happens. It was absolutely hysterical. So one more thing on this. Steve and I did some market research after our session. And by market research, I mean going to the bar in the hotel for a drink. We found some attendees, and we found out that LA Podfest is primarily a comedy podcast festival. So people go to this show to see comedians. Now, the guys I was on were pretty funny, but it was tech podcast, right? It wasn't well known as a comedy podcast. So evidently the people who run LA Podfest were trying to branch out a bit into tech, but they didn't exactly get the word out on this. At least that's what we're telling ourselves.
That was pretty hilarious. I
almost want to play the audio for the live audience.
Yeah, just play the part where I think it starts off with, what is this session supposed to be about? I think it's...
Yeah. So I have to do a little bit of shenanigans to make this happen.
Shenanigans. Ooh.
Well, we met a girl named Shenanigans. She called herself that.
Her nickname, yes.
Yeah.
Shannon Egan, I think.
Yeah,
Shannon Egan. Shenanigan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Shenanigan.
That's and an attorney. I don't know if I want an attorney named Shenanigan.
Yeah, really. Live show. Let's see. So I need to put nothing can possibly go wrong. Put that right here. Let's put it up there. Nope. There. I think I got it.
You're going to do the video as well? Video and audio?
Oh, yeah, I suppose I could.
You just play the YouTube video.
Right. So let me go over here and find this. And I'll do an application window, and we'll do Safari. Okay. So I'm not going to go full screen or anything. Does that look okay?
I don't see anything yet.
Oh, do I have to hit share?
Probably.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. So I am going to hit play for a second. You can use it as a baby. There. Could you hear that?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to go to 4930, right?
Yes.
You know, there is a way to put links directly to specific spots, Steve.
Yeah.
You haven't found it?
I haven't found that. Now, interestingly, in the YouTube comments, I do put those time hacks. And if you hit either of those, it goes straight to them.
Oh, it does?
In the YouTube post.
Oh, on the YouTube page.
Not in your reference.
I've got it. So you did hear that when I played a few seconds, right?
Yes.
Okay, so listen to this. Here we go.
I'm Allison, and I'm Adam.
What is the topic here, bro?
Tech news.
Tech news.
Daily unless you don't like that. Actually, you can tell us what we'll just be a piano. We'll be, who the hell are you people?
Exactly. The topic is. We thought we were going to the starting a podcast thing. That's not this one.
That's the next one.
That's across the hall.
No, it's the next one. No.
They're gonna leave.
I know that.
But we know.
I'd rather them.
Oh my God, I'm so
glad leave
Awkwardly,
Yeah.
realize.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck starting a podcast.
Because
this is your future.
Yeah.
I got that. This is all recorded, by the way.
I want to be a big shot. Like the other podcast festival.
Hey kid, I'm making a style.
All right. I think it was hilarious. It was so funny.
It actually was better that a couple showed up and then left because it underscored how few people were there.
Yeah. Sandy says, I loved how Allison tried to get them to stay by telling them that the next one was one they wanted. Yeah, that's how desperate I was. That's almost funny enough to put into the audio, you know.
Just that clip.
Yeah, I might be able to do that. What do you think? Nah, we'll make them go watch the video.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to turn this block off. There we go. All right. Okie dokie. Well, that was fun. Now it is time for There's No Place Like Excel. Oh, I saw a typo.
Are you going back to you?
I should. It would probably be more interesting than this blank screen, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, where I saw another typo. Oh, there. Oh, it's because I capitalized the typo. That's great. I said brought, but I spelled it BROUGH. And since it was capitalized.
Like not brought.
The problem was because it was capitalized, it didn't get caught by Grammarly.
Oh, you just forgot the T?
Yeah, but it was capitalized for no apparent reason. Okay, so we got to go to There's No Place Like Excel. I did not talk about No Place Like Excel last week, did I?
I don't think so. I could go check.
Yeah, check. Maybe I did. Maybe that's why I still need that extra section. Did I?
Hold on, let me check.
Hold, please. I don't think I did. Anybody remember?
There's No Place Like Excel was October 3rd. That you couldn't have. That's Tuesday.
Okay. All right. So this is one I forgot that I had a recording of. So, all right, here we go. All right. I may have mentioned a few hundred times that I really, truly love Excel. I seriously dislike PowerPoint and I see no need for Word. It doesn't really bother me, but I see no need for it. But Excel brings me great joy. I simply love taking piles of data and turning it into information. And Excel is how I do that. There pretty much isn't a pivot table I don't adore. Doing a VLOOKUP, it delights me once I remember how to do it again because I forget every single time. And simply formatting a graph to help explain my point, that also brings me great joy. If you find great value in any of the Office products from Microsoft, you may need to consider an Office 365 subscription yourself. You might be saying, but Allison, Office 2011 does everything I need. And while that's true, you won't be able to use Office 2011 after you upgrade to High Sierra. Microsoft is not going to upgrade it, so you're going to have to make a decision pretty soon. Now, your choices boil down to the following. Number one, you can stay on Sierra for the rest of time and then complain about how you don't get updates. Your second option is to pay $100 a year for Office 365 and use it on up to 5 Macs and PCs and 5 tablets and phones for 5 people and get a 1 terabyte storage of Microsoft OneDrive. Not too bad. The third option is to buy a standalone copy of Office 2016 for each computer/user at a cost of $150 each. You could also use Google Sheets. It's part of Google Docs. You can use that for free. You could use a free and open source alternative like LibreOffice, or you could use Apple's Numbers, their free Numbers application. Now, you might think that I'm going to go methodically through this list and give you all the pros and cons of every option, but let's do something completely different. Let's jump around and I'll complain about different things in every one of these options. Not as helpful to you as a detailed analysis might be, but it's going to be very therapeutic for me. All right, the first option of staying on Sierra is just dumb in my opinion. Delaying the inevitable will just waste your time and be more frustrating in the long run. If you choose the new solution now or soon, then you'll be moving when everyone else is, and you'll have more help in figuring out how to go through the transition. I've listened to too many people who waited to move from one application or platform to another, and by the time they tried to move, no one could remember the solutions to the problems they inevitably would have. Staring on Sierra forever will eventually put you at a security risk. I guess there is an option 1.5. You could stay on Sierra for, say, a year or so until maybe someone comes up with a better solution, and you'd probably be okay doing that because Apple's going to keep that up to date, I would presume, for at least a year. They usually stay a couple of revs back. But if you stay on Sierra for years, I guess what I'm saying is don't come crying to me later when you have trouble converting files. Option 2, pay for Office 365. Now, I've actually been using Office 365 for a few months now. $100 a year is a lot of money just for Excel, since I don't care about the other products. But it does support both of Steve's computers and both of mine, so that's cool. I have to say that I don't like the new version as well as I like Excel 2011. They seem to have spent a lot of time making it look pretty and animated and not necessarily adding functionality that I need. I forget who helped me with this. One of the NosillaCastaways did, but someone showed me that I could actually turn off the animations, and that made it a lot faster because it was pretty slow. But I got to tell you, as I was describing this problem that Office 365 isn't much different from Excel 2011, I was describing it to Dorothy during our workout on the elliptical machine. We realized maybe the fact that it hasn't changed very much is a good thing. Perhaps we should looking at this $100 a year as a fee to keep it from changing. If everything was different, it wouldn't be the Excel we know and love, right? All right, so option 3, let's look at individual copies of Office 365. And we probably don't need Excel on all 4 of our Macs, and I don't think I really need it on my iPad and on my iPhone, so I could probably get away with 2 standalone copies for $300. That's a tough call on whether that's a good idea. That's 3 years of renting it until I'd break even. And, I just don't know. That one's a real tough call. Dorothy took a look at this, and for her, she was the only one who was going to probably move. So she went ahead and bought a standalone copy of Office 2016 because if it's only for one Mac, that doesn't sound like that bad of a deal. But, I keep looking at maybe there's going to be some huge pivot table based breakthrough, and I won't get it if I only have if I don't have Office 365. So with Office 365, you get all the new enhancements, whether they make them or not, and whether you like them or not. All right, how about Google Docs for free? Do Google Sheets. I got to tell you, to be honest, I really do so much collaboration with Steve that I reach for Google Sheets much more often than I actually use Excel. Probably my main use case for Excel is doing calculations for my taxes. Doesn't seem like a sound idea to put my financial information online in a product made by Google. Now, you might make a different decision than me, but that's been my perspective. But for everything else, Google Sheets for an Excel replacement works pretty darn well, really. I do remember being frustrated that it didn't allow me to do vertical text one time, which is important when creating a QFD. But other than that, it's not awful. But I got to tell you, Google Sheets is kind of like a suit that almost fits you. But if you stretch your arms forward, it sort of pulls at the back, and the tag is kind of scratching your neck a little bit. And the color doesn't quite look right. And pants are like 1/4 of an inch too short, so they don't break at your shoes like they should. It's fine, but it's not quite right. It's not really like Excel. I went over to our Google Plus community and I asked about the state of the union on open source alternatives. George from Tulsa suggested LibreOffice from LibreOffice.org. I had used LibreOffice years ago, but I hadn't taken a look at it recently, so I thought it was time. Now, my goal was to try out these alternatives while trying to make my giant table of doom, trademark Donald Burr, about the iPhone models using one of these spreadsheet examples. So I went through the different spreadsheet tools and kept trying to work on this same spreadsheet. I actually started with LibreOffice. I was hoping that it had made huge advancements in usability in the past few years, but I'm afraid to say I was disappointed. There are all kinds of dumb, annoying things that just really bothered me. Like it opens in full screen every time, not full screen, but the window takes up the entire screen. So I've got, 27-inch monitor and it's this huge page showing all of the options. And so I have to shrink the window down every time. It's also a package that includes not just the spreadsheet application. So you aren't just talking to the spreadsheet, but you're also looking at a text editor, a presentation program, a database, and the drawing application, all piled into one giant app. I kind of like to see my spreadsheet application all by itself. I don't need any of that other stuff. And I think that probably slows it down. But I got to tell you, that wasn't enough to keep me from using LibreOffice. There were a plethora of other little annoyances that made me stop using it. For example, it would freak out if I tried to use a text expander snippet inside it. It was really weird behavior. It would take data from one cell and paste it into a different cell where I'd use the snippet. It was really, really weird. I literally could not use text expander snippets and keep the LibreOffice spreadsheet making any sense. Really, really annoying behavior. Now, another thing that drove me bonkers was how badly it handled adding a line feed within a cell. Sometimes you need to separate text within a cell into two lines. The standard way to do this is to add a line feed in most applications is to hold down Option Command and hit Enter. Kind of does a forced line feed. In LibreOffice, that key combination sort of works, but not properly. If you use that key command as you're typing, like you type a couple of words and you do the Command Option and hit Enter, it just completely ignores you. What you have to do is type everything in, move away from that cell, go back, put your cursor where you want it, and hit Command, Option, Enter, and then it gives you the line feed. That's just stupid. Really, really, really stupid. And like I said, LibreOffice is really slow in many operations. I especially noticed that when I was formatting a chart. But wait, here's a better one. In LibreOffice, it only prints in landscape. Now, the documentation tells you how to change it to portrait mode, but it does not matter. LibreOffice likes landscape, so it's going to print landscape no matter what you say. I confirmed this with George, so it's not just me. Now, I still could have lived with these annoyances, maybe, but that's not what made me completely throw in the towel on LibreOffice. I tried to save a file, and it asked me if I wanted to save it as an ODF spreadsheet, also known as the Open Document Format. Nothing wrong with that, but I told it I want to save it as an XLSX spreadsheet. It worked fine. A while later, when I hit save again, it insisted that I wanted to use ODF again, but this time it simply refused to allow me to choose any other option. My work was essentially lost because I could not save my document. That's when I threw in the towel on LibreOffice. All right, option 6. What about that numbers application? I've given numbers a try so many times, and I always end up going back to Excel. But I decided to run up that hill one more time and give it a try yet again. I opened the file I'd created in LibreOffice in Numbers to start. Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I find the contextual menus extremely confusing in Numbers. For example, let's say I want to center the text in one of the cells. I click in a cell, and if I have to click on the Format button in the upper right to reveal the panel where this can be accomplished. It's pretty much like the way things are hidden in the ribbon in Microsoft Office. I mean, I don't love it, but it's not that bad. Well, the side panel reveals 4 more tabs. There's a tab called Table, one for Cell, one for Text, one for Arrange. But if you look up at the top of the window, there are icons for Table and Text. Well, are those Table and Text the same as the Table and Text over in the side panel? Nope, they're not. They just have the exact same name, and I find that super helpful. Well, it might be operator trouble, and it probably is, but I keep running into scenarios where I simply cannot find the formatting options. I was trying to center some text in a cell, and for the life of me, I could not get to the menu for text alignment. Sometimes I couldn't find it, but other times the options just seemed to, or sometimes I could find it, I should say, but other times the options just weren't there. It could be me just being dumb, but it happened enough times that I'm not really sure it's me. Now, another annoyance is with making charts. I wanted to make a chart showing the prices of the different models of iPhone with the different sizes of storage. I selected my table and I told it, make a chart. Numbers misinterpreted what I wanted and tried to graph the table titles along with the data. I managed to work around that problem, but for some reason, it refused to use my row titles as the legend. Oddly, it wouldn't let me type, or it would let me type in my own titles, but it wouldn't take the titles from the chart or from the above the cells. Anyway, it really annoyed me that it plopped. Okay, I've made enough mistakes in a row. Pause. Sandy's a twin. I did not know that. Oddly, it wouldn't let me type. Did I miss anything, Steve?
Well, I went down to start the barbecue, so I don't. If you did, I don't know.
That's good. Has anybody been watching the chat room? Let's see.
There's been a lot of talk about flying or not flying or wanting to be a pilot.
And cool. Alistair would be enjoying that. Where is identical twin? I did not know that.
So if Sandy's identical twin got in the chat room, we'd never know.
We wouldn't. That would be freaky. You should totally have her do that.
She types identically to Sandy.
Hi, T-Dog. Hi, Tessa. Nobody can see you. Oh, there's a tail.
Yep.
Oh, can't see the tail because Steve's talking. All right. Back on me. Everybody really wants to see you, though. All right. Where was I?
Daniel's pointing out that he's a twin, too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So identical Daniel?
And Rose's brothers are fraternal twins. And you were married to an identical twin. That was weird. That is weird. She's Windows? Oh, Sandy.
Oh,
Sandy, I need to get you both on the show.
That would be great.
Oh, man. And I won't know which one of you is talking the whole time. We totally should do that, shouldn't we? It'll be like, and then we'll say at the end that actually you're got a split personality.
So Daniel's not identical, fraternal.
Yeah. But for some reason, it refused to use my row titles as the legend. I don't know where I went wrong. Yeah, that's really upsetting. Don't you think that would be fun though, Sandy? You think she'd do it? It'd be so much fun. I also wanted to join the Air National Guard, but USPS called first.
Daniel's cousins are triplets. Wow.
Oh, wow. All right.
Your camera's a little bit low, unless you want to advertise for the dudes. There you go. Now it's a little bit high.
Oh my God, you're so freaking picky.
Good. Stop. Right there. Just don't move.
Okay, Steve, mute. Go away. Don't think she'd do it. She's sort of straight-laced. Well, then I'd be able to tell you apart. The one laughing at my jokes would be Sandy. Actually, you could pretend to be her. I would never know. Oh, that's funny. Okay. But for some reason, it would allow me to type in my own titles. Now, it really annoyed me that it plopped the legend above the chart when, by standard, legends are located on the side, right? I was able to drag it to the side, but it kept the titles in this really wide horizontal side-by-side arrangement, and it looked really stupid. I fought with it for quite a while, and I gave up. I published my chart with a legend across the top. I just gave up and let it win. But later on, I went back in and I noticed that the legend had two little handles like a normal text box. It occurred to me that maybe Numbers would let me adjust the size of the box with the legend titles. And I thought maybe if I narrowed the box, it would put the titles one above the other instead of side by side. And sure enough, that worked. I guess I have to think differently with Numbers, right? Well, there is one thing that's just plain stupid about Numbers. I was graphing the prices, which ranged from $350 to $1,150. I wanted horizontal grid lines at every $100. Turns out Numbers won't let you type in a value for how far apart you want the lines to be. And it doesn't even offer you something logical like increments of 100. Get this, you have to tell it how many steps you want to break the axis up into. For example, if the axis went from 0 to 1,000 and you told it to break it up into 10 steps, then each step would be $100. But in my case, I wanted my chart to go from $300 to $1,200. So I had to do math and tell it to break it up into 9 steps in order to get $100 lines. Now, how on earth is that easier than saying, make it a line every $100? It's really stupid. Well, Numbers is weird in that you can create multiple spreadsheets on a single page. I've always thought that was stupid and I would never use it and I hate it. But when I was doing my spreadsheet on the phone models and I wanted to count the number of SKUs, I realized a small second spreadsheet on the same page was a perfect way to do it. I started thinking about all the times I've created a new area diagonally over and down away from my main sheet so I could format the width and height of cells independently in Excel. This multiple spreadsheets on the same document approach might actually be useful. I'm not going to lie. I'm bought in. I like it. Now, I'm really on a roll hating Numbers here, but there's more I don't like. I really dislike their cutesy method of showing formulas. Instead of just showing, say, parentheses B5 plus C6, close parentheses, it has these goofy wedge-like parentheses that take up a bunch of space, and they're hard to interpret and hard to read. And don't get me started on edit and cell. The stupid formula stays on top of the cells so you can't see the other cells to add them to the formula. I bet it's a setting because I swear, I used to be able to edit down below instead of in cell, but I was so angry about this that I gave up. Then the other day, I tried to use numbers on the iPad to do a really simple spreadsheet. I was completely frustrated with it. In this sheet, I had a row of information that I needed filled down. On the Mac, you see a little yellow box where you hover over the edge of a cell, and if you grab that little yellow dot, you can pull in that direction to fill the information to the new cells. But in the iPad, doesn't have that. I had to select a cell, tap and hold to copy, tap and hold to paste. Really got tedious after a while. In what is probably another case of me just missing things, I was never able to figure out how to name my gosh darn spreadsheet while it was open on the iPad. I finally thought to go back out to the giant grid of spreadsheets and tap and hold on it there, and sure enough, one of the options was to rename it. That's just dumb. The time I want to name something is while I have it open. Now, you might want to think this is picky, but it still seems dumb to me. In Numbers on iPad, you have a choice of a regular keyboard or a number pad. If I'm typing in some numbers, the number pad makes sense. But guess what they didn't have on the number pad? An equal sign. Seriously, a number pad, no equal sign. That's just dumb. Again, maybe it's picky, but I think it's dumb. So I had to keep switching back and forth between the two keyboards. Now, I'm not giving Microsoft a pass on this one, though. I tried to use Excel on the iPad, and I had pretty much the same kind of problems as with numbers. You can drag and choose fill, but the first time I tried to do it, it didn't do anything. It took me a lot of experimenting before I could figure out how to actually make it work. Now, it does have nicer formulas, and I was able to name my daggone spreadsheet at least, but the menus were limited and confusing, and I ran away from that too. I doubt I'll use it on the iPad very often. So, what have I concluded about all of this? I think I'm going to stick with Office 365 and my $100 a year subscription. Doesn't make me want to throw my Mac across the room like the other applications. And while it's really expensive, but compared to the other alternatives, at least the software is good and I understand how to use it. How's that for an endorsement? Okay, I need to edit one thing there. She's always gabbing. This is a long one. What, Steve? What was that, dear?
It's just a badly timed comment in the.
Really badly.
It wasn't me. It was someone else talking about that lady gabbing in the window. I was just kind of reinforcing. Bye-bye, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Why is he leaving?
Maybe his show.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't say specifically that I saw. Daniel is rolling, laughing at Steve.
No, that's Ian. Oh, Daniel's laughing. Ian's telling you Daniel's laughing.
Probably because I was caught, and I knew I would be caught.
Yeah. What is it the boys say? Don't get caught.
Right.
Yeah, I am definitely not going to need that last article. Yay!
So are you going to skip it?
Yeah.
But you are going to do the tiny tip?
Yeah, I'm going to do Patreon, and I've got the Bluetooth dropout, and I'll end with the tiny tip.
Wow, you do have a lot.
Yeah. So I forgot about the Excel one. Actually, I forgot about Bluetooth dropout. I counted wrong. All right, here we go. As you've probably noticed, there are no ads on the Podfeet podcast. It's not that I'm not approached by people wanting to advertise. It's that we've got a different model here. The show is entirely funded by the Amazon affiliate links by those of you who contribute to Patreon. No, stumble. Start that over again. As you've probably noticed, there are no ads on the Podfeet podcast. And it's not that I'm not approached by people wanting to advertise, it's that we've got a different model here. The show is entirely funded by the Amazon affiliate links and by those of you who contribute via Patreon and PayPal. In the last week, we've had a donation via PayPal from Robert after his first time on the live show. Travis started supporting the show via Patreon, and Michael actually increased his level of support in Patreon. And let's not forget Amazon. There was a payout from Germany and the US that will both go a long way towards funding the cost of making the shows. I can't thank all of you enough for showing the value you get out of the show in all of these different ways. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. My wife gave me a tip, wanted to take a pic of the rockets at Air Force, but I never knew you turn phone and landscape. It does panopics going up and down. Yeah. Somebody else showed me that when I was trying to take a picture of a tree.
Yeah, we were in the Sequoias, Sequoia National Forest. Yeah, those redwoods are tough to do unless you do go pano vertical.
Yeah, that was the first time we ever used that.
Yeah.
Still didn't do it justice.
No, it's hard. Yeah, you probably need, I don't know, a quadcopter or something.
Probably need to have talent, skill.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I've been feeling like the unluckiest Apple fangirl for all time with all of the problems I've had with my Apple gear in the last year. Most recently, you might remember the saga back in August of my 2016 MacBook Pro going belly up. Remember it wouldn't charge? It would only stand out in your memory because my 2013 backup MacBook Pro couldn't connect to Apple services, so I ended up asking executives at Apple to give me a hand. Anyway, that all got resolved, and I got my 2016 MacBook Pro back with a shiny new logic board. Now, I haven't wanted to mention it, though, this problem, because I was hoping it would just go away on its own, but I've been having a problem with the Mac ever since I got it back. Do you do that too? Do you go into denial and just wish these things away and pretend they're not happening? Well, anyway, when I sit at my desk, I use the Apple Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad instead of the built-in keyboard on the laptop. That lets me put the Mac off to one side and use my now 6 or 7-year-old 27-inch Apple Cinema display as my main screen. But ever since I got the Mac back from the shop, I've had dropouts of the Bluetooth connection from the keyboard and trackpad back to the Mac. I'd be typing away and suddenly no letters are coming out on screen. After a few seconds, it would come back. Sometimes the trackpad disappears too, but more often than not, it was just the keyboard. It was happening at least every other day, but sometimes as often as several times in a single day, and it was driving me bonkers. I couldn't believe I was going to have to bring my Mac in yet again. But finally, after 2 months of this aggravation, I called AppleCare. The advisor gave me 3 things to try. First, he said to unpair and repair the devices. I was pretty sure I tried that already, but I wasn't 100% certain, so I said I'd try that again. He said if that didn't fix it, try resetting the SMC or System Management Controller. Now, my understanding of the SMC is that it manages power, but what the heck? Only takes a minute to reset it. Why not give it a try? Finally, he said to reset the NVRAM. This is one of those incantations we've been doing for a very long time since it was called PRAM, but for the life of me, I do not know what kind of problems it's supposed to fix, but again, it's easy to test. Of course, this didn't fix the dropout problem of Bluetooth at all, so I called back the next day, and this time I got Jeff on the phone. Jeff suggested we run a hardware diagnostic test. I actually did not know you could do this, but if you boot with a specific key sequence, your Mac will connect to Apple servers and run a test. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, Jeff didn't seem completely clear on the key sequence with which to boot in order to invoke this diagnostic test. At first, he told me to use Option D down arrow, but my Mac booted normally. Then he said, maybe you don't hold down the down arrow. So I booted with just Option D. Yet again, I had a normal boot up. Finally, he said, I don't know, maybe try just D? Emboldened by his confidence and skill, I tried it, and this time it did run the diagnostics. The bad news, or maybe it was good news, was that it said there were no hardware problems found. Now, unfortunately, Jeff had no other tools up his sleeve since it said it was fine, so he suggested he make me a Genius Bar appointment at my local Apple showcase. Now, I know I'm lucky to have one nearby, but I'm still going to complain about the fact that even with his help, he could not give me an appointment for a full week. Well, on the Mac Geek Gab, Dave Hamilton has said quite a few times that it's a good idea to look at things when they're not misbehaving, so you have some clues to when things do go wrong of what might be wrong. For example, he says, look at the lights on your router. You might see a solid green, 3 blinking lights, and 1 amber. If you get a sense of that pattern, then when you're having network problems, you can look at the router and see if anything looks amiss. He also suggests poking around in the console when nothing is going wrong. The problem with the console is that it's really alarming. It's chock full of error messages and other scary things. For example, while I was writing this up, I could see a message in the system log that said, unknown key for Boolean high bits ASLR. Wow, that's got to be bad, right? Well, no, to the best of my knowledge, my Mac was running swimmingly while I was looking at that. So I decided to put Dave's advice to good use. At a time when my keyboard and trackpad were both happily connected and functioning, I opened the console and I did a search for Bluetooth. I watched the messages scroll by. I had no idea what any of the messages meant, but I got a sense of what they looked like when everything was fine. I kept that application open in the background. After a day or two, I forget how long it was, I got a drop out of my keyboard and trackpad. I instantly used the app switcher to flip over to the console app, and I noted the time. It was 07:10:49. At the very top, it said, Blued event, B-L-U-E-D, event, disconnection complete, reason equals 19. I did a search for that line online, and I found other people with Bluetooth dropout problems, often having to do with audio, but nobody had the solution. Also in the list of errors that came up at exactly 07:10:49, I found one that said, device destroyed. Well, that didn't sound very good. So I think I can help Apple engineering to pinpoint where in their code the problem might lie, because there's a typo in these error messages. One of them says unsubscribed from characteristic, and later did unsubscribe. If they can find the person who can't spell subscribed, maybe they'll be able to track down the error and how it happened. Well, anyway, I was excited to march into the Apple showcase, some people call it the Apple store, for my Genius Bar appointment now that I was armed with some solid data to help them solve my problem. My genius was Glenn, and I was pleased to see him because he was the same person who helped me when I got this very MacBook Pro back just 2 months ago. I also like Glenn because he understands that I'm a pretty darn high-end user, so he listens to my diagnostics first instead of trying to handhold me and tell me dumb little easy things. I described all of the symptoms. I told him I'd done the SMC VRAM reset dance and that I'd run the hardware diagnostics. Then I showed him the log file I'd captured from console. He went into the back room for quite a while, during which time I tried to entertain the other people at what I have come to call the Table of Sadness. It turns out at the Table of Sadness, I have my own custom chair because I visit so often. They gave it to me when they gave me my parking space after I received lifetime platinum status in the AppleCare frequent flyer program. Well, eventually Glenn came back and had a suggestion. He said that there isn't a known issue, but there's evidence that suggests it could be handoff interfering with other Bluetooth services. Handoff is part of Apple's continuity suite, and it allows you to start a task on one device and then move between iCloud connected devices to continue. For example, you can open a Safari window on your iPhone and then go to your Mac, and if you use the task switcher, you'll see a distinctly different looking Safari icon with a little phone over it, which represents that web page on your iPhone. And if you flip to that, it'll be the same page that you were on your iPhone will come up on your Mac. Handoff also enables Universal Clipboard, which allows you to copy content on one Apple device and paste it into another one. He suggested we try turning the handoff service off for a bit to see if it solves the problem. Now, I wouldn't have even known where handoff was in system preferences if Glenn hadn't shown it to me. It turns out it's in the General tab. Have you ever looked at the General tab? I don't think I've ever gone in there. Anyway, the checkbox he had me uncheck is labeled Allow handoff between this Mac and your other iCloud devices. I am delighted to report that I met with Glenn 8 days ago, and I have not had a single Bluetooth dropout since. Glenn said he thought they were addressing the problem in High Sierra, and for sure, I will be testing that when I have the nerve to move my production Mac to the new OS.
So we have someone who joined us who hasn't been here for a while.
Rush. Hi, Rush.
And he made the comment, my favorite podcast. I really love this community.
Oh,
a true NosillaCast away.
Absolutely. Who needs Kevin here anymore? We have Rush. He likes us.
Wait a minute. That's my wingman you're talking about.
Actually, I should be making fun of you because wingman's not here to protect you from me, right?
Yeah. Guess I got to do it myself.
Guess so. All right. Well, that's fun. What is next? I have to drag out this tiny tip to get it. It's a long enough show. The only time anybody complains is when the show's too short. Stephen Getz gets mad.
And you don't want Stephen mad.
Nope.
So tiny tips?
Yep. Here we go. There's a rather hidden feature inside Apple Mail that is helping you right now, but may trip you up in the future if you don't know what it does and how to manage it. It's called previous recipients. Wait a minute. Do we have Tiny Tip music?
We
Might.
I thought we did. Yeah. Well,
It's been a long time since I did one, but let me check. Do we have? Yes, we do.
oh, play the music. For
We have not had a Tiny
sakes.
Tip music. Not had a Tiny Tip in a long time, so I will bring this out here. Mac to the new OS. Should I start as it's winding down? Yeah.
Love those marimbas.
Okay. Well, it's been a while since we've had a Tiny Tip, but I have a really good one for you today. There's a rather hidden feature inside Apple Mail that is helping you right now, but it might trip you up in the future if you don't know what it does and how to manage it. It's called previous recipients. The problem previous recipients solves is this. You get an email from someone with whom you haven't corresponded before. Maybe you know them, but you don't know them well enough to have ever added them to your contacts. Now, at a later date, you want to send an email to them. You start typing their name in the address field, and Apple Mail autofills in their email address. This happens because Apple Mail has added their email address to your previous recipients. This can be super helpful, at least to me. So if you write to me, there's a pretty darn good chance I'm going to write back to you. Maybe later I want to ask you a question. I'll easily be able to do that. But what happens when we get a new Mac? If you use Migration Assistant and you tell it to move absolutely everything over, or use Super Duper or Carbon Copy Cloner and replicate that back to the new Mac, you'll never lose those previous recipients. But what if you take my advice and you do a clean install of your OS and all of your apps and just move your data? Turns out all of those previous recipients will be gone. But don't despair. There's a lovely interface to previous recipients where you can do some interesting things. Open up Mail and select Window in the menu bar, and from there, select Previous Recipients. You'll see 4 columns and a search window. For every entry in previous recipients, you'll see the name of the person, if it was able to find that, the email address, and the last date the address was used. But to the far left, there's actually a 4th column. For some recipients, you'll see a little address card symbol. If you click on the top of that column, it will sort all of the addresses you have in your address book to the top. That's what having that little card means. Now, those aren't the really interesting ones, the ones that have the card, because when you copy your address book, you will get those people just fine. Click that column again, and it'll put all of the addresses you don't have in your address book at the top. There are 2 really useful things you can do now. As you scroll through the names, you can decide who you'd really like to be able to communicate easily with again, and for those, you can select Add to Contacts, and you'll get that little card next to it. In some cases, you'll have a name that keeps popping up in your way when you're typing someone else's name. For those, you have a button that says Remove from List. I highlighted one of mine that says Allison Sheridan at podfeed.com. No idea where that came from. Probably a spammer trying to guess my email address, like it's not everywhere on the internet. But it's not a real address. There is no such address. So I clicked on that, hit delete, boom, it's gone. Now, you might also have OCD, and I think a significant number of geeks seem to be afflicted in that way. And in that case, you'll really like to be able to remove all of the names that aren't in your address book. Back on those people you want to add to your address book. In some cases, Mail.app hasn't figured out their name, or maybe you want to add more info to their newly created address card. If you double-click on the little address card icon that is now next to their name, it will open contacts to show their card where you can happily edit away. The one thing I did notice was when it creates a card, sometimes you'll have an address that's an address for somebody who's already in your address book, but not that address. If you use this method, it's going to create a new card, and that's kind of messy. That's kind of annoying. The better way to do those is to go to that person, and it'll show you that they found another address in Mail that they think is that person, and you can add it from there. Okay, I ad-libbed that, so I lost track of where I was going. Thanks for the big ear flap there, Tessa. Hope the audience appreciated that.
By the way, Rush said he just purchased Parallel Toolbox after watching your tutorial on
yay!
Screencast Online just today.
Oh man, that's
What a coincidence.
awesome. That's cool. Okay, here you go. You will be seriously surprised at how many addresses you thought you had in your contacts, but only seemed that way because they were in previous recipients. Might also explain why when you tried to send an email to someone using your iPhone or iPad and mail on those devices, could not find them. No, too big of a gap there. And add it from there. You will. Yeah, that's cool, Rush. I love Parallels Toolbox. I mean, I know it's $10 a year as a subscription, which is kind of lame, but it's so worth it.
So a tutorial in Aussie speak is a toot. Just tuck that one away for future reference.
A toot, huh?
A toot. T-U-T-E.
Here we go. That'd be tut. T-U-T-E. Yeah. Not T-U-T-T.
T-U-T-E would be toot.
Yes. I thought you said T-U-T-T.
No, T-U-T-E.
So did any of you guys notice I said geep instead of geek? I'm going to leave it in. All right. Where's the show? All right. I think that takes us to the end. Yeah, I got to take that out. All right. I think you're good. Okay, as long as nobody noticed. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. And you can do that by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. You can follow me on Twitter @podfeet. Now remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com/whatever it is you're looking for. Got podfeet.com/Patreon to help support the show. Podfeet.com/Facebook or /Google Plus if you want to join the community discussion. Podfeet.com/Amazon for those Amazon affiliate links. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Rush did after having been gone for a long time, and by the way, who just started using Parallels Toolbox because he saw my Screencast Online video, you can do that by heading over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Think anybody ever stays to the end other than you guys for that?
Oh, I'm here, but I have to be.
Yeah, Steve used to listen to the show too.
Well, I do listen to portions.
Yeah, you listen to security bits when I tell you to, and you that it's good.
And some of the NosillaCast lights.
Yep. And none of you haven't learned to program.
No.
You were gonna learn to program, remember?
Yeah.
You were gonna learn Swift. You were gonna write us an app.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
I don't think anyone wants an app.
Yeah. Does anybody want an app? Is that something you guys would use? Oh, by the way, worst thing ever. I was really excited that they got rid of 32-bit apps in iOS 11 because that meant that the NosillaCast app that is so old and outdated would finally die. But you're not going to believe this. Donald Burr built it 64-bit. It's still there.
It'll hang around forever, even though it's not functional anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's bits of it. I think you can read the blog using it, but yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Oh, Richard says he's always late. He sticks around. Oh, you just got here? You usually hear earlier than that. All right, I think we are good. I think this is a wrap. File, export. I don't want to hear any whining from Steven. He'll probably complain because it's not quite 40 minutes.
Oh, the whole show is 40? Oh, you don't have any security bits or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, this is always the harder week.
Yeah.
But next week, we're going to see Forbes. It's 36 minutes. Close enough, right?
Forbes who?
Forbes who?
Not everyone knows Forbes. I mean, for instance,
right.
Rush hasn't been here in several months.
Okay. Forbes is our grandson. Find your preferences. Why are you opening in all files? I never want it opened all files. Ever, ever, ever. Stop doing that. All right, guys. It is 5:59. I'm getting you out of class on time today for the first time in a while. So we will see you all next week. Bye, Rose. Mwah. Bye, everybody. Say goodbye, Steve.
Good night, Gracie.